I promise on our previous video on habits that our next video will bring you types of habits and steps to get rid of them. Here we are types of habits. Habits are a crucial part of our daily lives. Some of these habits started when we were young, like sucking your finger. Habits are a part of us, and we are a part of our habits. Most people categorize habits into two areas, bad and good. The bad habits tend to be more popular than the good ones and can include procrastination, telling lies, stealing, and laziness, among others. Different schools of thoughts have their own notion among of their kinds of habits. Here are two different schools of thought on the different types of habits. First school of thought. According to the first school of thought on habits, they can be divided into four different kinds as follows: instigating, avoiding, regimental, unconscious. Everyone falls into one of these four types. Let's explore each category a little further so you can determine which one you fall into regarding your habits. Number 1. Instigating habits. These kinds of habits are those that are established throughout the course of our lives to help guide us through our life projects. These habits are responsible for moving us forward toward a preferred idea. They are the habits that tend to lead to serendipity. You can enjoy these habits without actualizing any goal. They tend to take us on a path that is rewarding on its own. At times, these habits might have goals attached to them, but achieving these goals isn't necessarily as important as the process. You can refer to these kinds of habits as open-ended habits. Since you aren't focused on the result or outcome, what happens during the process can be framed to be a success. Examples of instigating habits include reading, working out, spending time with friends, eating healthy, building a home. Number 2. Avoiding habits. These kinds of habits are widely known by everyone because we see these habits everywhere. They are the habits we are trying to break off. Avoiding habits include media addiction, slothfulness, gambling, gossiping, drinking, smoking, and every kind of addiction that you can think of. In this stage, the focus is on changing from one thing to something else. These are the habits that we try hard to push away. You are either complying with them or not by moving them toward the instigating habits, which is by mentally reframing them. For example, if you are in the habit of gossiping, rather than trying to stop the habit, you can look for ways to compliment others instead. If this is done over and over again, it will eventually override the habit of gossiping. Number 3. Regimental habits. These kinds of habits involve doing an activity each time the same way without leaving any room for change. It is an automatic response. You can call it the devilish cycle, which robs you of the current moment. People who tend to rail against habit formation only consider this type of habit. Once you form a regimental habit, you lose control of the present. These habits usually become unconscious if you aren't careful and on the watch. For example, parking in the same spot every day, showering, drinking a cup of coffee every morning, and more. Number 4. Unconscious habits. These habits operate through us, and undeniably, we have them all. We don't see them, but we rely on our friends and family to help us expose them. These are habits that we repeat over time and that have become embedded in our character and lifestyle. We don't have conscious control over these habits. They include pessimism, negativity, overspending, frowning, picking your nose, etc. Second school of thought. Besides the habits mentioned above, they can also be categorized into 3 distinct groups based on the nature of the activities according to this second school of thought on habits. Motor habits. These are referred to as muscular activities. They are the habits that directly relate to our physical actions. Motor habits include walking, talking, sitting, standing, exercising, and maintaining a particular body posture, among others. Intellectual habits. These kinds of habits relate to the psychological process that is needed for our mental abilities. Intellectual habits include logical thinking, accurate perception, use of reasoning before making a decision, and good observation, among others. Habits of character. These are the habits that are expressed through our character. For example, helping those in need, trusting people, being honest, time management, being clean and tidy, etc. These, at times, are called emotional habits because they have the essence of feelings and emotions. How habits work. Your life today is the sum of the things that you have done consistently over time. Your life is the product of habits, whether they are good or bad. Ultimately, you are what you repeatedly do, and your habits form the things you believe, the person you are, and the personality that you portray. Sometimes, we don't even know how we exhibit certain habits. We do, however, know that over time, we end up doing them unconsciously. Understanding how habits work is the key to a life where anything is possible. The pattern of habits. Every habit that you develop, whether good or bad, has a pattern. They follow a specific pathway. A bad habit also accompanies the same pattern that is followed by a good habit. Knowing that habits follow a particular pattern, it is essential for you to know about the 3 patterns of habits that are followed sequentially. The 3 patterns of habit are the reminder, the routine, the reward. Every habit follows this pattern. Whether you have the habit of reading, exercising, procrastinating, smoking, or something else, the pattern is the same. Every habit is learned and can be unlearned with the help of this process. Habits are just the result of practicing and repeating a particular action over time. Any kind of habit that you desire, you can learn. All you need is persistence and discipline. With persistence and training, you can shape your character and personality to whatever you want. You can rewrite the script of your life if you aren't happy with it. You have the power to rip off your former habit and produce a new one. Most of the problems and frustrations you face in life are due to the bad habits you've developed over time. Taking a look at the good habits, there are many things that could be responsible for their development, including motivation, the drive to succeed, and competition. You might be wondering how motivation can cause habits? It is rather simple. For example, you might not be able to read a book a month, but while watching television one day, you see a teenager talk about how he reads 4 books per month. The words of the teenager continue to play in your head. This constant replaying of the teenager's words motivates you to pick up the book and finish it in a month. As the days turn into weeks, and the weeks turn into a month, you finish the book and accomplish your goal. You feel so good about achieving the goal that you begin to read at least 1 book every month consistently. The words of the teenager motivated you to start a new habit. Bad habits are typically caused by stress and boredom. Things like drinking, overspending, smoking, biting your fingernails, etc. are ways of responding to stress and boredom. However, it doesn't have to be this way. You have the power to deal with stress and boredom without developing bad habits. The 3 R's of how habits work. The moment you can comprehend the mechanics of how habits work, you have the power to change the path of your life to the way you want it. Understanding how habits work will help you transform your habits, even if you've had them for years. Unfortunately, you can't escape the 3 R's of habit, but you can change how they affect you. The reminder. This is known as the cue, or the trigger, and is the first pattern of how habits work. All your habits start with a trigger. The trigger is responsible for telling your brain to go into an automatic mode, as well as the particular habit of using. An external trigger reminds you of the habit, which is associated with that particular habit. This reminder immediately stimulates your subconscious behavioral pattern. This means that from that point forward, your subconscious mind is in control of your behavior. The trigger from your environment can be likened to a button, which puts your entire behavior into action when pressed. This is then translated into the second pattern, the routine. The routine. This is the actual behavior that is triggered by the reminder. The routine could be mental, physical, or emotional. The routine can happen quickly, without much thinking. This is the key to it becoming a habit because it doesn't require any thought or conscious effort by you to carry out the sequence. It merely happens because it has become encoded in our brains. It is not firmly planted in your muscle memory. It is like driving to work, and you automatically know where to turn without thinking. The moment the sequence is ingrained into your muscle memory and brain, it becomes difficult to change. The third pattern is the reason why it can be a challenge to change a habit once it is learned. The reward. Every routine has a reward, either positive or negative. The reward process is responsible for helping your brain find out if such a routine is worth remembering for the future. As time goes on, the process becomes automatic. The reminder and reward process ends up becoming entangled until a sense of eagerness and craving arises. Most times, the reward is connected with a feeling. The moment this 3-habit pattern becomes encoded in our minds, it remains there forever. There is a specific neural network for each habit that is formed in the brain. This unique neural network strengthens whenever you repeat an activity, and it also weakens when an activity is stopped. This is why people who have stopped a particular habit and think that they've overcome it will later find themselves going back to it when it is externally triggered. In this situation, the only way of changing the habit is to form a new habit which is strong enough to replace or override the old habit pattern. Hit like button if our video is helpful and you enjoy watching it. Please click the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon to get informed when we upload new videos. Thank you for watching. See you on your next video.